Welcome to Saju Mathew Online Safety University.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Very good. We are here to discuss about the construction-related activities. See, how do we start construction? In order to start a construction, initially we invite tender from many contractors. Many contractors will be submitting the tender. From that, we will be choosing one contractor. Now, how do we select the contractor? When many contractors are submitting tender, we consider certain criteria. What are the criteria to be considered while selecting a contractor? In order to select a contractor, first of all, we have to consider contractor's health and safety management system. Which management system they are following? Are they following OSHA's 18001, ILO SS 2001, HSC 65? It would be easy for you to work with them if you know their management system. So first of all, we have to consider their health and safety management system. Second thing, their risk assessment. Are they competent enough to carry out suitable and sufficient risk assessment? Do they have a system in place that you have to check? So their risk assessment you have to consider. Third thing, you have to consider their previous experience in carrying out similar project. Do they have experience in doing such projects? Have they ever did it or not? So, in order to decide a contractor, you have to consider their competence level overall plus their experience in executing similar projects. Then overall competence of the contractor you have to consider. So while selecting a contractor, first of all you have to consider contractor's health and safety management system, their risk assessment, their previous experience in executing similar projects, overall competence of the contractor. In addition to this, you have to consider the financial and infrastructural capacity of the contractor. Whether do they have adequate equipment, are they paying salary in time, otherwise what will happen, their people will go away in time. So do they have adequate equipment, do they have adequate manpower, so that also you have to consider. So their financial and infrastructural capability. In addition to that, you have to consider the comments from previous clients, how these people behave with the previous client, that also is important. So comments from previous clients, see some organization might be getting continuous fines for legal violation, what is their history of legal violation. So that also you have to consider, and how they are going to, are they having all automated system, infrastructural capability you have to consider. Considering all this, we will be selecting a contractor. Then the job will be given to them. Now, suppose for example, you have been given with 2 acres of land to construct a 25-floor building. Now the land is given to the contractor. Now, to start this construction, first of all, any existing structure is there, we have to remove. Removing an existing structure, normally it is known as demolition. So, by definition, do you know what is demolition?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. Demolition is a construction process, or it's one of the major activities of the construction. It is collapsing a structure partially or fully is known as demolition. Collapsing a structure partially or fully is known as demolition. Sometimes we collapse the entire building, sometimes we take out the wall of the building. So for maintenance purpose and all, this is known as partial demolition. If we are collapsing the entire building, that becomes complete demolition. Okay.
So what are the types of demolition?
Very good question. See, demolitions are basically 3 types. One is hitting down method, pulling down method, and bringing down method. You know what is hitting down method? Even by using a jackhammer or hammer, normal hammer, to jackhammer, or otherwise you can use a crane and ball to hit down the building. This is known as hitting down. Another one is pulling down. Pulling down, normally what we do, with the help of excavators, we pull the building down. Otherwise, we will tie up metallic ropes on the beams of the building and it will be pulled from the distance. This is pulling down. The third one is known as bringing down method. These days, most of the countries are following this, they are adopting this bringing down methods. So the bringing down method, what happened? With the help of explosives, we collapse the building. So, how the collapse, this is being used, I'll tell you. Gelatin sticks, gelatin is explosive. Gelatin sticks are connected in series. It looks like almost similar to this. And these gelatin sticks will be connected in series, and the structural engineers will identify the weight bearing points of the building, and after evacuating everyone, after taking all the precautions, the gelatin sticks will be bombarded and the building will come down. This is known as bringing down method. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It's fine. Thank you.
I have one more question. What are the hazards associated with the demolition?
Very good question. What are the hazards associated with the demolition? See, demolition activity is one of the major activities in the construction site. Demolition, the main hazards associated with demolition includes flying objects. From the building when it is collapsing, things can fly away. Flying objects, falling objects, dust related problems, noise related issues, vibration related issue, because when the building comes down, naturally vibration will transfer to the next building. It can challenge the stability of the next buildings also. Vibration related issues. Premature collapse. Before the anticipated time, the building may collapse. Premature collapse of the building. Then entrapment. Sometimes what happened after we will ask the people to evacuate from the building, so people will be inside the buildings. So there are possibilities of getting entrapped inside during the collapse. So premature collapse and entrapment. Sometimes what happened, these buildings, most of the buildings which are collapsing are old one, might not have been used for the last many months and years. So there are possibilities of snakes over there, there can be spider over there can be reptiles over there can even crocodiles over there. So there are possibilities of biological agents over there. Some of the buildings which are collapsing may have been used for keeping chemicals earlier, so there can be chemical left out over there. Even there are possibilities of norms. You know what is norms? Naturally occurring radioactive material, uranium, thorium, iridium, plutonium, etc. You can find the radioactive material over there. This can be radiation effect. So presence of norms is another hazard. So the common hazards associated with the demolition are flying object, falling object, then vibration related issues, noise related issues, dust related issues, premature collapse, entrapment, then presence of biological agents, presence of left out chemical over there, presence of hazardous material like asbestos, presence of chemicals over there, presence of radioactive materials. Then another problem, flooding, because of what happened when we are using explosives, there are possibilities of underground water line getting damaged. Because of that there can be flooding. There can be electrocution also, because the damaged electrical cables can cause fire also. So fire, electrocution. Then in addition to this, premature collapse is one of the major hazards associated with the demolition. Then noise, dust, vibration. Then lack of PPE. People are not having adequate personal protective equipment. Then lack of competence in handling the chemicals, handling the explosives especially, and lack of information. These are the common hazards associated with the demolition. Another thing, especially when you are using this crane and board, as I told you, hitting down method. When you are using crane and board, there are possibilities of the crane coming in contact with the overhead electrical line that can cause electrocution and fire. So these are the common hazards associated with the demolition. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Very
Sir,
good.
I have one last question regarding this demolition.
Fine, welcome.
So what are the safe work practices to be followed while carrying out demolition?
Very good question. What are the safe work practices to be followed while carrying out demolition?
Yes, sir.
In order to carry out demolition safely, first of all, we have to comply with the health and safety legislation. There are rules in place how to carry out demolition. So comply with the health and safety legislation. Second thing, before carrying out demolition, a demolition plan to be made. When to do, how to do, who will do, up to what time you have to do it. This is known as demolition plan. We have to make a demolition plan. Based on the demolition plan, we have to carry out a suitable and sufficient risk assessment and identify all the hazards associated with the demolition. Another thing, before demolition, we have to remove all hazardous and non-hazardous material from the building separately. Hazardous material separate, non-hazardous material separate. Asbestos, especially asbestos, we have to remove separately. Radioactive material, you have to remove separately. Clear? Then after removing everything, evacuate people. Then isolate all water line, electrical line, chemical lines, anything is going inside, you have to isolate it before. Then after evacuating everyone, after isolating everyone, then you have to barricade the area. The area where you are going to collapse, the building area to be barricaded. You have to put a warning sign and you have to divert the vehicle routes. Don't allow the vehicle to come by. So you have to send the vehicle away, and the people also should be restricted from that area. Before commencing the demolition, what we need to do is we have to spray the water to suppress the dust. Otherwise, there can be dust evolution. So, in order to minimize the dust evolution, spray water on the building then to suppress the dust. In addition to that, you must employ a very competent and authorized person only for demolition, especially handling this explosives. The Latin sticks and are only authorized and licensed people only to be permitted to handle these explosives. So explosives are to be handled by authorized people only. You have to provide appropriate personal protective equipment to the people. And very important thing, there must be an emergency procedure in place before commencing demolition. In case of something going wrong, you should have emergency procedure and arrangement. You should have an ambulance ready. You should have an emergency team readily available over there. Then you have to carry out the demolition. So barricade the area, place a warning sign, divert vehicle routes, spray the building with water, remove all hazardous and non-hazardous material from the building, evacuate the people. Do not re-enter the building once the evacuation is ordered. Some people may go back again, so it should not be allowed. So do not re-enter the building once the evacuation is ordered. There must be an emergency procedure in place, and till the end of the demolition, don't allow people to enter that area. See, normally after the explosion, it takes only minimum time when you are using explosives. After the explosives is being used, when the demolition is over, the debris are to be removed and disposed to the designated area. This is the correct way of doing a demolition. And it becomes a responsibility of a safety officer or a safety manager to keep the record of all this. In addition to this, certain precautions you have to take. See, when you are opting for a demolition, you should consider, first of all, for a complete demolition, you have to take permission from the local authority well in advance. You have to inform them, and you should keep the record of all the demolition and how much waste you have disposed. That record also you have to keep. In addition to this, you have to carry out a thorough risk assessment with respect to demolition. While carrying out a risk assessment, you have to consider certain factors like what the law says and what method you are going to adopt. Are you going to adopt a hitting down method, bringing down method, or pulling down method? What method you are going to adopt? Is it applicable? Is it suitable? Because if it is a thickly populated area, you are going to use an explosive. A lot of precautions are essential, correct or not? So you should consider, while carrying out a risk assessment also, you should consider the method which you are going to adopt for a demolition, and how many people are going to be involved, how many buildings are nearby, what about the moving population around, what about the moving vehicle around. This also you have to consider especially. And on completion of the demolition, you should maintain the record of the demolition and the waste disposed also. Clear?
Clear, sir.
Any other doubts you have?
No, sir, nothing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.